Uno, dos, tres, cuatro.
Hey guys, welcome to Plugged In with Spike Leo. This week we have another living legend, Nick Karasavvidis. I've known him long enough to be able to pronounce his last name now, which is fantastic. Yep. Musician, music producer, singer. Nick's been in the industry for many, many years, and I remember watching him as a little kid, as a singer-drummer. I started off as a drummer myself, and I just thought you were fucking awesome, man. So
wow.
welcome to Plugged In.
What a compliment. Thank you.
Look, man, I was so excited to get you in and just chat with you. One, you're an incredibly nice chap, and two, just like
Thanks,
from all my years growing up, and you know, I didn't gig with you much because I was kind of in and out of the music scene, you know, trying to do lots of different things. But on the occasions that I did get to see you, it was just always exciting. And I feel like, you know, your passion and drive and expertise is just something that we need to share with people. And,
That's it, mate.
and it's what I'm trying to do now is certainly bring the community together in Melbourne, because I'm 100% aware of the incredible talent we have here, of the people that have helped me over the years since I was a young boy. And I just think it's something we need to share with Australia and with the world, because
Agreed.
As I heard you say earlier, we're definitely competitive on an international scale. Our musicians are shit hot.
Yep.
We have awesome music producers, and even some of the guys that I guess I'm mentoring in terms of music production, they're really, really talented and doing some really exciting stuff. Yeah. So having said all that, I'm really happy to have you here, mate.
Oh, mate, thank you for asking me. When you called or texted me about this, I was like, not sure what he wants to get out of this, but cool. Well, you know.
Well, there's plenty I want to get out. I want to start asking you, like, how did your music journey start? What was your kind of roots, and where did it all kind of commence?
My earliest memory is probably always singing, like when I think back. So for me, I guess if you probably asked me when I was a teenager, it'd be drums. But now that I'm a bit older and I really think about it, I was always naturally a singer. I had sung since the day I could speak, and I was always emulating stuff on the radio, everyone from Michael Jackson to even stuff that was in the Australian landscape in terms of pop music, stuff like Farnham and whatever was on the radio, even though I'm not a massive fan of Farnham, but I can appreciate his talent and his phenomenal voice.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I was just copying. I didn't realise at the time, but I was copying their pitch, I was copying their tones. I was trying to get it exactly the same, and I didn't realise in pursuing that I was learning how to sing at the same time.
Now, you had no formal training or singing lessons, did you?
Never had a singing lesson in my life, but I've always sung since day one. You know, since I can remember talking, I can remember singing, you know.
Yeah.
But drumming sort of came later. For me, drumming, you know, around the time, you know, I had my parents divorced at an early age, probably around 7 years old. Mm-hmm. I think one of your early guests, who's a producer, had a similar story. So it's kind of good watching this stuff because you can relate to other producers and local artists as well that have either had a similar journey. But yeah, there was a lot of that. And for me, I was a very angry kid, believe it or not. And drumming kind of sorted me out, you know. It was a way of getting all my frustration from home out onto the drum kit. And then in high school, so fast forward from that, I was like totally obsessed with the drums and trying to master them. I had some really great teachers. There's a guy called Tom Jackson who was one of my early first teachers. I was very lucky to come across him. There are two kind of drumming texts that are considered like the drumming Bibles of Australia. One's written by Frank Corniola, which is rhythm section drumming, and the other one is drumming from top to bottom by Tom Jackson, which has now been renamed The Complete Drummer's Guide.
I remember both of those.
Yeah, so they're both really important books. Now I keep in touch with both those guys, but especially Tom because he was like my first teacher and a real big inspiration. He taught me about positive thinking when I was like 12, you know.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't just learning about drumming. You know, in the lessons we'd work over drumming, but I realised he was teaching me stuff behind the drumming that at the time I had no idea of.
Sure. Later
I realised, oh, that's what he was doing, you know. So he's an absolute legend and love the guy.
How important was that for you to have like a mentor through that time period that you were up and coming and learning your craft?
Massively important, yeah, because as I said, my family was pretty split, so in a way music became my family in a way.
Sure.
And everyone who I've met through music has been a mentor in some way, shape or form, but he was probably one of the first, because that was my beginnings of formal music training, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
And what age did you start gigging, getting out on the music scene? I mean, obviously you were singing every day just through passion and love.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, when did you get into the Melbourne scene? Did you travel overseas and kind of watch what other people were doing, or did you just get started quite young in Australia?
Yeah, no, pretty much all local. That's what I was going to say. So, you know, once I met Tom, once I hit about year 11 and 12, it all started really at school. I went to a school where there was still high schools and technical schools, and in the tech schools you had like recording equipment, you had actors, we had film studios, you could do film clips and work with the film department and that kind of stuff. It was quite creative, and that stuff sort of got killed, and I think I felt like the year or the generation that I was in were kind of like the last remnants of that, because they pretty much shut all that stuff down.
Sure.
So a lot of my friends actually creatives, and that's what they do in their professional life. So that kind of felt normal, I guess, even though we were still breaking the mold amongst our family members and people who do like regular work. But yeah, what I was going to say about high school, it was my high school teacher, a guy called Bruce Moschel. We called him Bruce, but his name was Baruch.
Oh, wow. Baruch. That's a small world, mate.
That's it. And so
is he does he never age? Is he that?
He's phenomenal. He was my high school music teacher.
He was mine too. So how does that work?
Yeah.
The dude still looks like he's in his 40s or 50s.
That's right. And so he was at Huntingdale High.
That's amazing.
Class
I didn't know
of
that.
93, 94.
Holy moly.
Yeah, and you know, we had a class of 30, maybe 24 metalheads, and then a few of us.
Sure.
And he knew how to connect with every single one of us.
He's a great teacher. I'm
And
still in touch with him every now and then,
Wow.
and he's just doing great stuff.
Yeah, and so he was the guy that said, hey, you sing and you drum really great. Now, we don't have a lot of singers in this year level. How about you do both? And I would go, oh, no, I can't. He goes, yes, you can. I was like, I guess, yes, you can. And I kept saying no, and he kept saying, yes, you can.
Yeah.
He just wouldn't take no for an answer. I just went, in my head, you know, at the time, what was that, 16-year-old brain just went, this guy's just not going to take no for an answer.
Sure.
I'm just going to do what he says. And the clever thing was that he gives me this sheet music, and it was I Can't Get No Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. At the time, I wasn't into the Rolling Stones. I'm like, what's he giving me this shit music for, you know?
Sure.
Later, you know, putting on my teacher's hat or, you know, teaching drums and whatever, I realised what he was doing. The drumming is... So the drumming's simple. It's just, you know, crotchets and quavers. Eighth
So
notes,
the
quarter
coordination between the two.
notes. Exactly. So what he was cleverly doing is going, here's a beat that's simple. Work on your singing and putting it together by keeping the beat simple. Once I unlocked that, then I was like, okay, I get what he's doing, and then I just kept going, you know?
Yeah.
So that was really the beginning. So really, yeah, like you said, it's a lot of different mentors across your whole journey of music, and those guys are really important guys. And it's funny, they don't get awards, they don't get the fame, and they don't get big album covers. And
But what a legacy, man, to leave. you
Yeah.
know? There's a dude, I'm sure you know, he's called Alejandro Vega.
yeah, he filled in for Tom Jackson like when he was away on holidays or something.
Yeah.
So he was also he was a guy who I had maybe for 5 weeks in a row.
And Dean Cooper was a guy who started with me. And, you know, those two guys, like I saw Alejandro a few months ago.
Yeah.
And I just know, like, you know, the influence he had on me as a student and a drummer and a musician. And not just me, like, my crew who was
Yeah.
growing up at high school, and I sat down with him and I just said to him, like, he's been teaching for 20 years now.
Yeah.
And I said to him, how amazing is it to know that the impact that you've had? Like, I was just 1 year. You've done 20 years. Imagine the influence that you've had on the students and what they've taken away. Like,
You hope to anyway, you know? Yeah.
well, man, the teachers are just, it's such a huge and vital job. It's you guys who are teaching, and anyone who's teaching, you're setting up our future or the next generation's future.
All
man.
those guys inspired us, and then that's one of the reasons that kept me always performing, always having a foot in performing and recording, and always having a foot in teaching and just being able to do more or less depending on what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me doing it, is stumbling across people like that or students like that who are drumming. And you just feel like if you can't contribute with your own music or by helping somebody else with their music, you can help somebody else make more music. And for me, that's like ticks another box. You
Definitely,
know?
man.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what were some of the challenges coming up, trying to build a career in music?
Some of the challenges, I reckon the biggest challenge is not having close family and friends that understand the industry to be able to pass on knowledge or help carve out a path for you, or even teachers in high school that know what they're talking about when it comes to that. Like, I remember actually asking my careers teacher, like, I want to be a musician, and they went, don't be a musician.
Yeah.
What else are you good at? You know, I said,
Sure.
I'm good at computers. Oh, you should do that, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, but that's not what I love,
Yep.
you know? I knew early on, I grew up watching my father who was awesome with his hands and being a carpenter, but didn't have the language because being a early migrant here to develop that. So he went and did factory work because he did what he had to do.
Sure.
But I grew up watching him do something that he didn't like his entire life, and I just thought, that's what I don't want to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to do something that I do love, even if it means not making a lot of money. And for me, I'm happy. My philosophy has always been, don't live in excess. Like, we only need a roof over our head, enough
food.
to eat, raise a family, no more, no less, you know? And so I'm happy to be able to say I'm doing that, and will continue to do that, you know, hopefully, through every dollar through music, whether it's teaching music or performing music or recording music. It's all music.
Yeah,
so
it makes it fulfilling to be able to
totally
pursue what you love.
Totally. But I think that's one of the early challenges. No one can say, like, for example, if you want to be a doctor, you can have 10 professionals tell you, like careers professionals say, okay, you need to go here, you need to study this, you need to get this degree, you need to do this.
Yeah, that's
when
very
you
true.
start, you'll get this much money, and then after a few years, you're going to get this much money, and then you're there, you know?
And everything
I know
they
it's
say
not
about music is you're going to fail. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
What else should you
That's
try?
right. I guess there's many, you know, the beauty and the difficulty is that there are many roads. Like when you talk to everybody about their story or journey through music, and even really famous people who, whether it's Beyonce or whatever, everyone's got a different story, and I think that's the beauty of it. We can always get to the destination through many roads.
Yeah.
But I guess the difficulty is you can't say, follow this, do these things, and you'll get there.
Sure.
You know, like...
A lot of the advice I've heard from other people like yourself is just the ability to, to pursue a career in music. Would you agree? You have to step outside your comfort zone and just fucking do it. You have to do it.
Totally.
Because there's no other way. There's no, like, you know, for me, this is a really hot topic, and it might be a little bit controversial, but I know there's a lot of courses out there charging between $40,000 to $70,000 to become a professional engineer or music producer, whatever that means. And I'm saying this because I also have friends and students who have been through those courses.
And I've taught at some of those courses myself. So
and it's a bit disappointing what they don't know. It's a bit frightening that, you know, they're demanding such a high amount of money. And there's no guarantee, mate, that you're going to come out of there and be able to pay that 40 to 70K off. I mean, shit, just as a
That's what I'm saying.
As
like
a muso,
if you're trying to study law or be a doctor or
got a chance of earning that
even
money
the
back.
teaching profession. If you want to be a teacher, you know, there is a carved out sort of thing you
Yeah.
can follow. Yeah, you earn a bit of a hex debt, but you know that you'll, fit somewhere and you'll get a job somewhere.
That's right. So
But
I'm not.
with music, not 100%.
Yeah.
And not every course can guarantee you a spot after.
That's right.
Really, all they can do is give you a bunch of skills.
Yeah.
The rest is up to you. That's really all they can do. I don't care who claims what. All they can say is, we're going to teach you how to drum. We're going to teach you how to sing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to teach you how a band works, or we're going to teach you how to manage a band. We're going to teach you how to compose music. Here are some contacts. Luckily, look, we have the internet and all sorts of things that you can go off and work out for yourself and reach out, which I guess before we didn't have.
Sure.
But other than that, really, it always comes down to the person and how hungry they are and what they're willing to do to get what they want to get out of their profession. Yeah.
I'm not disregarding at all education.
No,
I think education is
It's totally
huge.
important. Look, yeah, it's totally important. But if there are any courses that are 100% guaranteeing like a job afterwards, I don't know if that's 100%
Sure.
correct. Maybe in a different country with a larger population.
Yeah.
But in Australia, it's a bit harder,
So once you're educated, man, once you do get your education, whether that be at home, on YouTube,
Yep.
online courses, which are also valuable, or in one of these courses outside, what would you say? What's the next step? How important is networking and relationships? What do you do?
I think if you end up doing a course, look around you and that's one of the first things. The guy who started the jazz improvisation course at VCA, Brian Brown,
Sure.
who's passed away now, but he's a great saxophone player, composer, forward thinker. He's the guy who, it's the reason why we're able to study drums in a university. He's the reason why.
Sure.
When I finished year 12 and I was looking at studying drumming, there was 2 places you could go to. Drums wasn't even considered a real instrument. You had to do classical percussion. That's how...
That was the same for me when I went to VCAS.
Now it's changed. It's expanded. Modern contemporary instruments are considered...
Funk and pop is a genre now.
Yeah, it's considered legit now in the eyes of the academic world. But Brian Brown was one of the first guys who started the seeds of that. And I remember the first year that I got in, you're auditioning. I would have been 19. 135 drummers would have... I remember getting that letter, audition, and you get one of 3 that get chosen and you feel great. But Brian was the one who walked in the room and said, listen, look around you. These are people you're going to work with for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I was 19. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about,
Of
but
course.
he was 100% correct.
Yep.
You form a bond and a network through all those people that you're sort of honing your craft.
Yeah.
Now I can speak from that experience because I went through a place studying music, but I'm sure the same is if you're in the same area and you sort of hunt out in your hood who is your fellow music guy who's into it, and you start making music together. You can do it informally or formally, but at the end of the day, you'll be of a generation and you'll be trying to have the same wants and needs at the same time, so you're bound to bump into each other.
You see the same people around the traps all the time.
That's right.
And I completely agree with what you said. The most value I got out of going to uni is the networking and the connections I made.
That's right.
And it does encourage you to socialize and network. I feel as a musician or a music producer or any type of creative outlet, there's a part of you that segregates yourself from the world. You lock yourself in a room, whether you're practicing as a drummer, singer, and you have to put in those hours.
Yep.
But on the flip side, it can get quite lonely. We've spoken a lot about, or briefly, I guess, about mental health.
Yeah, totally.
There's many moments in every musician's and creative's life where they want to quit.
Yep.
And it's too hard.
Yep.
So I want to ask you, over your journey, how have you dealt, if at all, with issues of mental health, be that anxiety, self-confidence? What has got you through? Has music just been enough, or have there been things that you've had to put in place to be able to help you combat those fears and troubles?
Good question. I know that people have seen me play later, and that is like, I guess from my mid-20s to later, I come across as super confident. But
Definitely.
everyone, including my students, who I say, when I first started drumming, which would have been about 12, 13, I was like the shyest kid in the entire classroom.
Sure.
I knew I could sing, but I never told anybody.
Yeah.
Whenever a teacher in the classroom would say, hey, I need a singer for this, and they'd start playing something, you come up, and they'd point at everybody else, I'd be like hiding in the back,
Sure.
waiting for them to pick me last, But I knew I could sing. But that was a confidence issue, and I would get anxious. I was into acting and drama as well early, and that's what was the decider for me. That's what made me sort of choose more drumming and music. I always loved music and probably more, but
you can hide behind something.
Yeah, again, like getting older and thinking back, and you kind of dissect these things a bit more. And I use my own experience to then try and pass on to my students, or even just to better understand myself as a musician and my journey. I realized, I chose the drums because it's this beautiful sculpture you can hide behind, and still perform and sing.
That's right.
I really feel for singers. Just a straight up singer,
it's scary as shit.
It's just you and a mic and nothing else to cover you. And it's unless you have that natural innate confidence, or you grow into that role, you've got to work it out. It's really hard. So for me, it was. I guess music was the vehicle of what forced me to think about these things.
Sure.
I actually remember having like a conversation with myself, being, I guess, year 10 or something like that. I'd been drumming for 2 or 3 years, and I just said to myself, Nick, you are terrified of performing. Drumming and performing are married.
Sure.
You cannot separate them.
Yeah.
So either figure it out or stop doing it.
Yeah.
That's the conversation I had with myself as I don't know, it would have been 15 or something like that. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, I was about to ask, where did that come from?
But I guess I often would have these moments of truth that I would have to and I always, I don't know, relished the idea of forcing myself to face difficult decisions, I guess.
Did your parents support your musical aspirations?
I had no idea. They didn't even know either how to support it or what to do with it, I've told this story before to Adam Rudiger. I was playing in Lake Minnetonka for a little while, and it's a true story. I remember I was 13 years old, so my best friend Jimmy played the drums. I picked up a couple of pens and just worked it out by sight, and I just had this moment of you've got to play drums. This is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. I remember having that flash at 12, 13. I took the bus home, went to the Clayton Music Centre and bought my first pair of cheap drumsticks, walked home. Mum opened the door and I said, Mum, guess what? I know what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be a musician. And she went, what? Grabbed my sticks and chucked them in the bin.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And that
was the start of the end.
That was the start. And I was just like, that's not going to stop me,
Sure.
That's not going to stop me. I went to Dad,
Yeah.
Dad, I need drum lessons. And so that was the beginning of the journey,
Yeah.
But yeah, along the way, you kind of go, shit. I was really anxious. I was scared. I was scared of being in front of everybody.
It's scary.
And then I realized I have to do it. If I love it enough, I've got to keep doing it and just I had to trust it and see what happens. And I found that the more I did it, the more comfortable I got.
Sure.
Up there, and then the rest is history. The rest I can't even remember. And it goes on and on. You get big gigs and then it sort of comes back again.
Yeah, the nerves. Do you think it's true that, if the nerves are there, it means you still love it? You still care? Yeah,
I guess to a certain extent. I will say it momentarily happens for me. It might be either I'm playing a big gig with a really, with an artist I really admire and I don't want to mess it up or something like that, or I'm in a situation I've never been before, which now with 27 years of drumming behind me, there's not a lot of those. I don't want to sound egotistical or anything, but like I've done a lot of different things, and it's just more when I get a new experience that I might get a bit more
out of your comfort zone.
Bit of butterflies, but then again now, because you've got a lot more experience to draw from, you can kind of then divert in your memory and go, oh, this is like that time. So that's
the
cool.
confidence comes from other experiences.
That's it. And that's the beauty of being in the game for a long time. You know? And that's the other thing I love about music. It's, if you're a dancer or if you're an athlete, you've got a particular lifespan. I guess music's like golf. You can do it.
Yeah. Until the day.
Until your body can keep doing it.
Sure.
It's fine. Or even when your body can't, you can still. What is it? Curtis Mayfield. He was a paraplegic or something like that towards the end. He still kept writing music. From a wheelchair, and he worked it out. So it's really inspiring.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's nice, man. I remember just briefly when I was a young drummer and I was suffering from nerves. I used to hide the cymbals so I couldn't see the audience. I'd position them just so it would block out faces.
Yeah.
And my dad would always sit in the front, and that just always...
I can't see.
Oh, it's terrifying. I want to ask you who have been your heroes? Like who are the big guys you looked up to, and why?
I've got so many heroes.
Name me
mixture of
two singers, two drummers.
Yeah, as in international ones and local ones. So, we've got in common is obviously Michael Jackson. He's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like he was probably one of my earliest influences vocally. But then you realise all the other stuff too, as a songwriter, as a producer, as a singer, a delivery of the vocal, the whole package. As a dancer, I know you're a great dancer too. I love dancing. I never studied dancing.
No one knows that, certainly.
Really? You're a great dancer.
Don't ask me to dance.
You're a phenomenal dancer.
Thanks,
we all had that moment of copying MJ at some point in our life. If you love moving, and I still have a love for watching dance and seeing who's in the scene and what's going on. But yeah, he's definitely an early influence. Stevie Wonder was, those two guys probably, and Prince, of course. Stevie Wonder, Prince, and Michael Jackson. Like, they're the big three. There's James Brown, and when I say those guys, it's not just those guys. It's all the entourage that comes with them. Every musician they've ever had in their bands, every drummer that's sat on their seat playing their music. And I've gone through the real drummy drummers too, guys like Weckl and
Steve Gadd,
and there's a guy called Trilok Gurtu that I was really influenced by. He was an Indian drummer in the 90s who's really interesting. He played a bass drum with his hand rather than his foot. He made me think about drumming in a completely different way. His setup would be on a big rug with like all sorts of percussion intertwined with his kit setup. Even today, like a lot of my drum students will say, who's your favourite drummer? In the past, I'd say like your typical go-to drummer guys. Now it's like my favourite drummers are Stevie Wonder and Prince, and they'll be like, what? Like, they play drums? I'm like, yeah, Superstition is Stevie playing the drums.
Yeah.
Like, most of the stuff that
I actually didn't know that. I didn't know Stevie played the drums for that.
Yeah, like, so a lot of the drumming on Stevie Wonder records is Stevie Wonder doing it.
Just cool.
And when you realise that, it just opens up another dimension to how awesome he is, whether it's bass, moog, left-hand stuff, his keyboard playing, his singing, his songwriting abilities, and throw harmonica and drumming into the mix. Like that's right. He's an absolute powerhouse legend.
If they were like a young Stevie Wonder on YouTube and social media, they would have been killing it.
Yeah. So even on those Standing in the Shadows of Motown, they talk to the two Motown drummers, and they're like, oh yeah, we gave Stevie Wonder lessons, but he only needed like 2 lessons, then he didn't need us anymore. That's Stevie Wonder.
While we're on the topic, mate, tell us the story of meeting Stevie.
So I'm at I think it was October 2009, I believe. could be wrong, but somewhere around there.
Sure.
He did a tour. I remember the time before that, I was 19, working in a pizza shop, trying to get into a music school. I didn't have the money, but he did a more intimate concert with the MSO, which is the one I really would have loved to go to, because that was at like Crown Casino. Not that I love Crown Casino, but
nice space.
It would have been a real intimate setting with strings and Stevie singing and like only 100 people. But so this concert was like Rod Laver Arena. I'm probably like 7th or 8th row from the front. And he's doing everything from Songs in the Key of Life, which by the way, is probably my ultimate pop album of all time.
Sure.
For many, many reasons. But yeah, he's doing stuff from that and modern, you know, stuff that he had just released and just everything, you know. The whole concert finished, I'm wrapped. Like, I've ticked my box. I've seen my hero, seen him in the flesh. He's right there. I can go home now. I get a text as the concert finishes, and it's from a good friend of mine, Netta, who's a local percussionist as well, and singer and dancer, and also workshopper as well. But at the time, her best friend, Geraldine, was working for I think it's a promotion company that does music touring and booking, and she used to work for them. Anyway, they have these meetings and say, who should we bring out? She would say Stevie Wonder every time. This is Geraldine. And it got to the point where these would happen and they'd go, yeah, okay, look, we can't bring Stevie Wonder. Anyway, she'd moved on and finally they brought out Stevie Wonder. That was this concert. And it was kind of nice. They remembered her and said, hey, we got a couple of backstage passes. Would you like to go? So this is kind of the backstory to how it kind of leapfrogged to me. They're there. I finish the concert. I get a text from Netta. Come meet me in front of stage. I bought tickets for all my mates. We're on the same row. There's about 10 of us. Like I forked out for all 10 of us. They paid me back. But that's how excited I was. I wanted everybody to share this moment with me.
Yeah.
And they're like, go. You know, we'll meet you for food later or whatever. I go, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just have a feeling I might meet Stevie Wonder. I don't know how, but whatever. You know, so I go see Netta and Geraldine, and they're just like, I have 2 backstage passes, and have to say thanks, Netta, for this. Big thanks. Because, it was her best friend said, is it cool if I give this to Nick? She's like, yeah, go for it, you know. So,
wow.
And then get the backstage pass, go backstage, and there I am lining up, and there's, you know, kids who are 6, 7 years old, right up the front. You know, some kids who are disabled, and Stevie was really beautiful with all those kids. He had a keyboard set up with a microphone and speakers, and he's letting him play his keyboard, and they're just doing nursery rhymes and whatever. And then, you know, everyone else is talking to him. There would have been about 20 people amongst some media people. I was into my photography at the time, so I had my analog camera as well. Anyway, it gets to me, and I'm probably like 3rd from the back. Geraldine's with me as well. And I saw the mic, I saw the keyboard. I'm like, he's bored, man. Like, he's a musician. Like, I know he's saying hi and whatever, but he's
going through the motions.
But his hands are like playing voicings and jazz stuff, and I'm listening to all this while he's talking to everybody, taking photos and stuff. So it gets to me. And I know it's his brother who sort of organises, manages like how everything's going to work. Yeah. And I say to him, hey, can you like take a photo of us? He's like, sure. And so I'm taking a photo of Stevie, and while I'm there, I'm like, Stevie, I've read you're a big fan of Donny Hathaway, as am I. That's another great singer too that I've been influenced by. I said, do you mind if we have a play? He's like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, this is great. And he's like, what do you want to play? And he starts noodling, and I'm like, let's do The Ghetto. And he just starts, I didn't even finish and he started, you know, and I'm like, I knew it was in a different key, and I've just gone, you know, F sharp, and he just bang started F sharp, and I just started, ooh, yeah, and he just cracked a smile, you know. So I had Stevie Wonder like this going, ooh, and he's playing for me. It was unbelievable. And I started singing The Ghetto. And then I knew, because I'd done this on gigs around Melbourne where I sing the ghetto and then go into Living for the City.
Sure.
So I just busted out in Living for the City, and he was just like, yeah, like he didn't say anything, but he just was like,
he loved it.
Yeah. And then he actually followed me. He followed the chords. He's got amazing ears.
Sure.
For me, that moment was like a massive masterclass. Like in the way he listens, the way he accompanies, in the way, just his musicality. Just in that, it probably only lasted, I reckon, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. I only did a verse and a chorus, and even when I was like living just enough and I was finishing it up, he knew. I didn't have to tap him or say anything. He could hear it in my voice and just finish the song. And everyone was just like, wow, and I was just like, I'm done. I can't believe I just sung this song to this guy, this guy's song to him. Everyone just pissed themselves laughing, like, I'm out, see you later. I can die a happy man now, so.
I'm excited every time I hear that story. I've asked you a few times, and it's exciting. Now we have it on camera, so hopefully people can enjoy that one. I want to ask you quickly, I got 2 more little questions. Let's do some name dropping. Who are some of the acts that you've played for, sung for? What are you proud of?
Yeah, I've just been proud to, I love it when I get to help local artists make the music. So it was a pleasure working with you many years ago and playing drums for you.
It was great.
Doing your singer-songwriting thing and starting out in your own productions, and now, like, look at all this. Like.
Nick helped me with music production when I first started. He came over to my house, taught me a few things. I mean, despite being a huge inspiration as a musician, great guy, drummer and singer.
Stop it.
gotta say it when it's due, mate. And it's just it's great to have people like yourself. You're helping so many people in the industry across the board, teaching and putting yourself out there. And it's always a pleasure to hear you gig.
We're all doing the same thing, And
That's right.
Like I said, it's sometimes hard. No one knows the way. So if we all try and open a door for each other, we'll all get there in the same room making music, which is ultimately what we want to do, So, you asked me about, I love it on all levels, whether it's local artists like yourself, and I've had the pleasure, I got to play for Hugh Jackman, and it was for just a Red Ball.
I remember you talking about that.
Gala, but that was
great.
It was like 3 tunes. We were playing stuff from Boy From Oz, and it was with a big band set up with strings and horns and stuff. But being a drummer, you've got to sometimes like check the tempos, and when there's a big ending, everyone's looking to you, including whoever the star is. And in this case, it was Hugh Jackman. So he's doing his big finale. He's looking at me for the big finish. So we basically got to do a sound check and run the tunes once. And he was sort of having a bit of trouble with, like, how we're going to finish this, who to follow. And I was just like, dude, just watch my stick, bang. When I hit that cymbal, let's do it together, sort of thing, as you do in bands. But when it becomes a throw together quick thing, you got to make it look like you've been playing together for a long time.
Comes down to experience as well. Hey?
That's it. And he was just super cool. He was like, "Yeah, what's your name? Oh, Nick, yeah, I'll follow you, man. No worries, like."
That's great, man.
And he just went with the flow, and that was a really great experience. Just watching him work, doing his whole acting, dancing, his spiel. He's a really charismatic guy, and you can see why he's so successful. He's great at what he does, and he doesn't have a big head. He's like, he worked
great to work with,
equally well with everybody, and got on the same level with everybody. It didn't matter that we were a bunch of young guys backing him up. He had respect for everybody there, and we felt it, and it was great. So that was one of the things. I guess of late I've been working with the Australian singer-songwriter Lior, and he's phenomenal, like in a different way.
Talented singer-songwriter.
Yeah, just such a great guitar player. He just writes great music. It's completely different approach. You've just got to listen to the recordings and try and get them exactly to what has been put down and not deviate, and I kind of like that. I like it when a composer or a singer-songwriter knows precisely what they want, and you can deliver that, and they just smile and go, yeah, that's what I wanted. And for me, that's the greatest compliment, when someone says, I don't have anything else to add to that.
Of course, which is rare.
That's what I wanted, Yeah, that's right. And I will say, like, the bands and the musicians that he chooses, they're all
Top
great
notch.
players. So that, you know, being in that company too really helps as well. It just makes
Nice, man.
everybody's job easy too. So
Quickly, what are the plans for the future? And try and sum it up if you can. And the last question is, what advice would you give to a young Nick Karasavvidis and the kids out there?
Oh man. Say that again.
Plans for the future.
Plans for the future. For me, my number one plan for the future, and has never changed, is to never ever stop playing music, period, in whatever capacity, whether it's live, recorded, whatever. I don't think I'll ever stop.
Sure.
And never stop learning through music as well. And plans for the future, I just have a bunch of like recording, production ideas, you know, albums and songs and stuff that have been swimming around in my head for probably the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's time to act upon them. That's what I'd really love to do. So
Exciting, man. And
Yeah.
and advice you would give a young Nick Karasavvidis, would you change anything or give yourself some advice, that 15-year-old boy?
It's hard to
big
say.
question.
It's a big question. If I could be like Back to the Future and get into the telephone box and
Yeah.
appear, I'd be like, talk to this dude, see this guy, go
Faster.
here, here's this guy's number, and that's
Sure.
the thing. And you know that's impossible.
Sometimes
So
it's just the journey.
that's right. The journey's been great. I'm grateful. I'm forever grateful that I have my health and I can still play my drums
Yeah.
without any major ailments. As I know, there are those of us out there that, you know, things get cut short because they have an injury or whatever, or even mental illness.
Yep.
They can't battle it or overcome it. So,
What
yeah,
advice
I'm
would
grateful.
you give the kids out there, man, who are watching?
Man, be hungry. Don't take no for an answer. And if you can't find, or if someone can't give you something, go take it, is what I'll say. But in saying that, when you are taking, make sure you are ready, because none of us can dodge doing the work. And I think that's one of the early lessons even Tom taught me. You know, we all want to be the best player yesterday, and there's no magical pill. He used to say this thing, which I pass on to my students. He goes, what do you think? The drum fairy came from the sky and just bing, tapped me on the head, and I just went, you know, like, that's the thing. I think the sooner as a youngster and a young musician or artist, you realize that shit doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And the more real you can get with yourself from day one, that's when you're on your way.
Yeah.
That's when you're ready to like be good at what you do and do it one step at a time. And I reckon that's probably the ultimate advice.
Yeah.
'Cause that was passed down to me, and I've just put my own spin on it, which is, do the work. Just do the work, shut up and do the work.
Bro, thanks so much.
Thanks very much.
Thanks so much for coming in, dude.
My pleasure.
Guys, this is Nick Karasavvidis, plugged in with Spike Leo. Don't forget to like and subscribe
you.
below. It's a pleasure having you on today, mate, and I'm sure you're going to be an inspiration for many more years to come.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks for doing this. It's great.
No stress. We'll catch you next week on another episode of Plugged In. See you guys.